Have you ever looked at like a medicine bottle
Uh-huh.
and seen that little like tiny print that says tested on animals?
Oh, yeah.
Today we are going to be doing a deep dive into a pretty complex issue, the whole animal research debate.
Okay.
And we have this source document that goes over a bunch of viewpoints on it. And our goal here is really just to like better understand
Yeah.
all the arguments
Absolutely.
on both sides.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be like taking sides or anything,
Yeah.
but we're going to try and figure this whole thing out.
Definitely.
So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay.
Why don't we start with the arguments against animal research?
Okay. Yeah.
One of the biggest ones, I think right off the bat, is this whole idea of cruelty and suffering.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, it's a very emotional argument. And a lot of people feel that, causing pain to animals, even if it is for research purposes, even if it helps to develop new scientific innovations, it's just inherently wrong. And it's not just about like minimizing that suffering. It's more about respecting the rights of animals to live a life free from harm,
Right.
that humans would inflict on them.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into the whole thing about alternatives, right?
Yes.
Like there's all this new stuff that's coming out, like computer modeling
Yeah.
and synthetic tissues,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cool.
It is, yeah. It's an exciting development.
How effective are those in like replacing animal testing?
I think that they hold a ton of potential, especially when you're talking about like preliminary research
Yeah.
or, just sort of understanding basic mechanisms of biology. But it's tough to replicate how complex a living organism is, especially when you're studying things like cancer, Alzheimer's, these really complicated diseases.
Right.
For example, like if you're trying to model how the human immune system responds to a new drug,
Yeah.
we can do that to some extent in a petri dish. But you just can't capture all of the interactions that happen within a living animal.
Yeah.
It's so complicated.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's like if you were trying to understand an entire ecosystem, but you were just looking at like a single plant or something.
Exactly, yeah.
Another point that this document brings up is like, okay, even if you do the testing on animals,
Yeah.
how do we know for sure that the results are actually going to translate to humans?
Yeah.
Like, can we really be sure of that?
That is like the question at the heart of a lot of this debate.
Yeah.
I mean, animal models have been extremely important for a lot of different medical breakthroughs, but there are some differences, like biologically, between species that can change how a drug works or a treatment works.
Sure.
So like something that works on mice might not work on humans.
Right.
Because our metabolisms are different,
Yeah.
or the way our immune systems respond are different.
Right.
There are a lot of differences.
Yeah. And that makes me think about those mice they have now with humanized immune systems.
Yes.
It's almost like they're trying to bridge that gap.
Right.
But even then,
Even then,
is it really? Yeah.
it's still an open question.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it seems like there are some pretty compelling points against using animals for research.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and look at it from the other side.
Sure.
What are some of the arguments in favor of animal research?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest ones has got to be that it's helped us develop so many things in medicine,
Oh, absolutely.
like save so many lives.
Yeah.
So many treatments, vaccines.
Yeah. You think about like the development of insulin for diabetes or the polio vaccine. Both of those things relied heavily on animal research, and they've had a huge impact on like global health and human health.
Totally.
People who support animal research say that those potential benefits, like saving lives and just alleviating suffering in general, that justifies using animals in research,
Yeah.
especially if it's being done ethically.
Right. And this document talks about all the regulations and guidelines
Yes.
that are in place to make sure that the treatment is ethical and humane.
Yeah, there are a lot of rules in place to make sure that the animals are being treated well and to minimize any distress that they might experience.
Right.
These regulations cover a lot of different areas, like their housing, how they're cared for, all the procedures of the experiments. It's all about making sure that there's a balance between scientific progress and being ethical about how we use animals in research.
Right. So it's like
Yeah.
trying to find a middle ground.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
Like walking a tightrope.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've really gone in depth into like both sides of this debate here.
We have.
What are your final thoughts on this whole thing?
I mean, I think it's clear that there's no easy answer here. Like, both sides have good points. And I think if you're trying to form an opinion about this, you need to think critically about it and think about what you value. and what the ethical implications are. It's complicated.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive for today.
Yeah.
I want to leave our listener with one final thought, just something to think about as you're going about your day.
Yeah.
Think about the products that you use.
Right.
And the medical treatments that you receive. Now that you understand this whole debate a bit more, has it changed the way you look at those things?
That's a good question.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
This is fun. Thanks for having me.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
See ya.
6-Minute Podcast.